OSHA debates heat protections as workers die in extreme temperatures. OSHA heat rules stalled, Arizona workers face extreme summer heat. Protecting workers from extreme heat, a fight for basic human rights. How a $1 million lab is fighting heat illness for outdoor workers, UConn's Korey Stringer Institute. OSHA debates heat protections as workers die in extreme temperatures. Workers are dying under an unforgiving heat wave, and it shouldn't be happening. But here's where it gets controversial. As officials debate America's first federal heat safety rule for laborers, lives are literally on the line. And this is the part most people miss: these tragedies could be prevented. Last week, a stubborn heat dome parked itself over large swaths of the United States, driving temperatures and humidity to dangerous heights. As mercury climbed and sweat dripped, at least 3 individuals lost their lives while working outdoors. Their deaths coincided with a critical public hearing held by the Occupational Safety and Health Administration, OSHA, which is weighing whether to finalize, dilute, or scrap a new regulation mandating rest and water breaks when conditions exceed safe thresholds. Since June 16, OSHA has invited testimony from employers, workers, medical experts, and advocacy groups. Industry representatives have been vocal, urging regulators to water down the rule. Many argue that requiring a 15-minute break for every 2 hours of work once the heat index, the combined effect of temperature and humidity, hits 90 degrees Fahrenheit would be unnecessary in southern states, where such temperatures are routine. One contractor spokesperson bluntly stated, "An 85 or 90-degree heat index down here feels like a vacation compared to a 104-degree day." In essence, they contend that workers who've grown up or built careers under scorching skies are already acclimated and don't need extra protections. But here's where it gets controversial. That assumption ignores the unpredictability of heat illness, which can strike even seasoned outdoor laborers, and downplays the rise in emergency room visits and near misses reported by hospitals during heat waves. Following those industry testimonies, news broke of 3 heat-related fatalities. In Georgia, a construction worker collapsed and died despite standard first aid attempts. Local doctors at Cumming General Hospital noted a 20% jump in heat stress cases among outdoor laborers during that spell. In Sumter County, South Carolina, 61-year-old baseball umpire Mitchell Huggins suffered a fatal heat stroke while officiating a youth softball game when the heat index lurched into the upper 90s. Witnesses reported he collapsed on the field and never recovered. In Dallas, Texas, postal carrier Jacob Taylor fell unconscious on his route in 94-degree heat and later died. Authorities are still investigating, but many point to the relentless sun and high humidity as the likely culprit. "These tragedies are completely preventable," said Jordan Barab, OSHA's former deputy assistant secretary under the Obama administration. "We don't need more data, just look at the headlines." A stark example came during OSHA's hearing when Brian Renfro, president of the National Association of Letter Carriers, revealed that postal management has sometimes ignored its own heat safety guidelines. Carriers reporting nausea, cramps, or dizziness were still ordered to keep delivering mail. Renfro noted that since 2012, at least 7 union members have died from heat-related causes. He warned that without a binding federal standard, companies will continue to push workers past the point of exhaustion. The proposed OSHA rule would require employers to provide clean drinking water and shade, paid 15-minute rest breaks every 2 hours when the heat index exceeds 90 degrees Fahrenheit, a gradual heat acclimation schedule for new or returning workers during their first week on the job. These measures, backed by decades of medical research showing that hydration and rest drastically reduce heat illness, have nonetheless sparked fierce debate. Industry groups claim the costs would be burdensome and the thresholds arbitrary. Worker advocates counter that the cost of human lives far outweighs any economic burden. Controversial comment hook: is it fair to argue that Southerners don't need protection because they're used to the heat? Or should we accept that extreme temperatures pose universal risks regardless of location or experience? At the close of the hearing, OSHA officials have the power to adopt the rule as is, weaken key provisions, or abandon it altogether. Meanwhile, families are mourning. Hospitals are strained. And frontline workers continue to clock in, poised to face the next heat dome. What's your view? Should OSHA press forward with the proposed heat safety standard, or is a tailored, region-specific approach the smarter path? Dive into the debate. Let us know if you agree, disagree, or think there's a better solution. Your voice could help shape a rule that protects lives rather than profits. OSHA heat rules stalled. Arizona workers face extreme summer heat. OSHA heat protection regulations delayed while Arizona workers endure scorching temperatures. Washington, Arizona temperatures have already climbed beyond 110 degrees this summer, and for yet another season, the majority of workers lack adequate legal protections against the blistering heat. The Federal Occupational Safety and Health Administration, OSHA, currently has no specific heat regulations in place. While the Biden administration began developing such protections, OSHA now faces President Donald Trump's executive order requiring agencies to eliminate 10 existing regulations for each new one implemented. This regulatory roadblock has left worker advocates increasingly doubtful about progress, even as extended periods of extreme heat become more frequent across the country. Federal authorities should set the gold standard when it comes to employee safety, explained Eric Gregorovic, who leads the Arizona State Association of Letter Carriers, speaking during his lunch break Wednesday while delivering mail in Phoenix. The conditions were brutal, 106 degrees under direct sunlight with a heat index of 114, and dramatically worse inside his U.S. Postal Service vehicle. The situation has become so extreme that Gregorovic often prefers walking his route to staying in the truck. He noted that 3 mail carriers required hospitalization this week alone. I'm checking the thermometer in my truck right now. It's reading 140 degrees, he revealed. Many of these vehicles have been in service for 30 to 40 years. Arizona state law contains no formal workplace heat standards whatsoever. Numerous legislative proposals have failed to advance, including 3 measures introduced by Democratic lawmakers in the most recently concluded legislative session. According to research from the Natural Resources Defense Council, more than 1 million Arizona residents work in industries with high heat-related risks. OSHA identifies construction workers, agricultural laborers, and landscapers as facing particularly severe risks due to heat and sun exposure. Delivery personnel and energy sector employees also face significant dangers. Several of our members have experienced heat illness or heat stroke, and once you've suffered from it, you simply can't return to outdoor work and function normally again, explained Jason Sangster, who serves as business manager for Ironworkers Local 75, representing approximately 1,000 workers and retirees throughout Arizona. But here's where it gets concerning: outdoor workers aren't the only ones confronting dangerous temperature conditions. Many kitchen staff and retail employees face hazardous situations due to inadequate air conditioning or poor air circulation. Similar risks affect workers in warehouses, manufacturing facilities, bakeries, laundries, electrical utilities, and steel production. A groundbreaking study released in June by Harvard University Kennedy School of Government researchers discovered that 40% of indoor workers, a demographic historically excluded from heat regulations and protections, regularly endure temperatures of 80 degrees or higher. The National Institute for Occupational Safety and Health, NIOSH, operating under the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, has been urging OSHA to establish heat exposure standards since 1972. Under the Trump administration, NIOSH has been severely reduced. Approximately 2/3 of staff members were terminated as part of cost-cutting initiatives recently led by Elon Musk, including the entire team of heat safety specialists. OSHA regulations likely at a standstill. During Biden's presidency, OSHA published a proposed rule on August 30, with officials indicating last year they hoped to finalize regulations by early 2026. The proposal would require employers to provide water, cooling break areas, and acclimatization protocols when temperatures reach 80 degrees. When temperatures hit 90 degrees, workers would be entitled to 15-minute breaks every 2 hours. The public comment period concluded Wednesday. Elizabeth Enright, an 81-year-old Scottsdale resident who felt compelled to submit a comment, retired from the Federal Department of Housing and Urban Development where she worked as a property manager supervisor and equal opportunity investigator. The proposal doesn't go far enough, but it's at least a beginning, she remarked during a phone conversation. Prospects for advancing the OSHA proposal diminished significantly when Trump took office and mandated regulatory rollbacks to accommodate any new regulations. Labor advocates express additional concerns because Trump's selection to lead OSHA, David Keeling, previously served as health and safety executive at UPS and Amazon during periods when both companies received citations for inadequate heat-related worker protections. Despite lacking specific heat regulations, OSHA does monitor heat stress incidents and issues citations using the General Duty Clause within the agency's founding legislation, which mandates workplaces remain free from recognized hazards that are causing or are likely to cause death or serious physical harm. Between April 2022 and December 2024, OSHA conducted approximately 7,000 heat-related inspections nationwide, resulting in 60 heat citations and 1,392 hazard alert letters. Some of these enforcement actions have involved postal workers. In Dallas, a 51-year-old letter carrier died while completing his delivery route on June 25, when temperatures reached 90 degrees. This tragedy occurred almost exactly 2 years after another Dallas postal worker, age 66, died on duty when the heat index exceeded 110 degrees. Weeks later, a letter carrier in Mesa collapsed while delivering mail and required hospitalization. Temperatures that day reached 118 degrees, during the particularly brutal summer of 2023. On August 11, Governor Katie Hobbs declared a state of emergency across Maricopa, Coconino, and Pinal counties following 30 consecutive days of excessive heat. "I worry about construction workers and anyone required to work outdoors," said Patrick Dill, a 78-year-old Tucson resident who also submitted comments supporting OSHA heat standards. "I watch our U.S. Postal Service delivery person arrive, apparently without any cooling equipment, driving around for hours under the blazing sun in those small vehicles, essentially roasting," he observed. In 2024, globally the hottest year on record, Arizona experienced 113 consecutive days with temperatures exceeding 100 degrees. Nationwide, OSHA has issued 207 citations against USPS since 2015 for heat-related injuries, according to the agency's severe injury database. Administrative law judges dismissed 5 such citations in 2020, ruling that OSHA couldn't demonstrate violations of specific requirements. State and local regulations fill some gaps. Colorado has implemented heat safety standards specifically for agricultural workers. Washington state protections cover all outdoor workers. Minnesota has established standards for indoor occupations. 4 additional states have comprehensive regulations covering both indoor and outdoor workers: California, Nevada, Oregon, and Maryland. Arizona has no heat standard codified in state law. "We're significantly behind other states," noted Sangster, the ironworkers union official. State Senator Catherine Miranda DeLevine, who sponsored one of the unsuccessful bills this year, emphasized the critical importance of hydration in Arizona's scorching heat. "My goal was ensuring worksites provide sufficient water and protections for employees," she explained. "I'm simply trying to create legislation that safeguards everyone during our extreme summers." In 2023, Governor Hobbs established a state emphasis program aimed at reducing workplace heat injuries. Without direct enforcement authority, the program focuses on raising awareness, gathering data, and referring dangerous conditions to OSHA for potential investigation. In May, Hobbs formed a workplace heat safety task force and directed it to develop recommended employer guidelines. The Arizona Department of Occupational Safety and Health, ADOSH, operating within the Industrial Commission of Arizona, will evaluate these recommendations. Hobbs intends to have these guidelines implemented before next summer. Here in Arizona, this issue resonates deeply with all residents, particularly considering the extreme heat we face every summer, explained task force member Rick Murray, who serves as president and CEO of the Arizona chapter of the National Safety Council. While the task force hasn't convened yet, Murray indicated they plan to schedule their initial meeting soon. Some Arizona municipalities have attempted to address these regulatory gaps. Phoenix, Tempe, and Tucson have enacted workplace heat ordinances requiring employers to implement heat safety plans including access to cool drinking water, regular breaks, shade or air conditioning availability, and acclimatization periods for new employees. Non-compliance triggers reports to OSHA or DOSH. In Phoenix, violators may additionally lose eligibility to conduct business with city government. Two other Sunbelt governors, Republicans Greg Abbott of Texas and Ron DeSantis of Florida, have signed legislation prohibiting cities from adopting worker heat protections. Protecting workers from extreme heat, a fight for basic human rights. Extreme heat isn't just uncomfortable, it's deadly. Yet thousands of hardworking individuals endure scorching conditions without adequate protection simply because they're trying to put food on the table. Take your latest purchase, a vibrant pot hose, perhaps, or maybe a lush snake plant. Where did those come from? Chances are high that somewhere along its journey, it touched the hands of folks like me, who labor tirelessly under blazing suns in Florida's vast network of nurseries. Here, amidst towering rows of verdant foliage, we tend to nature day after grueling day, planting seeds, pruning branches, spraying pesticides, all while battling oppressive humidity and soaring temperatures frequently exceeding 100 degrees Fahrenheit. What might surprise you, and frankly shocks anyone aware, is that despite such harsh realities, there exist virtually zero safeguards protecting us against excessive heat exposure. Forget about mandated shaded areas, forget consistent access to fresh water or scheduled cooling breaks. Even minimal guidelines regulating workplace temperature aren't enforced, not locally within states nor federally nationwide. However, a glimmer of hope has emerged recently thanks largely due diligence efforts spearheaded by advocates pushing forward meaningful reform initiatives aimed towards safeguarding vulnerable populations subjected daily hazardous environments caused primarily unregulated extremes ambient air temps encountered throughout various industries including agricultural sectors, manufacturing facilities, retail operations, etc. The Occupational Safety Hazard Association, OSHA, recognizing mounting concerns surrounding occupational hazards linked directly prolonged periods sustained elevated thermal stress levels affecting human physiological systems, overall well-being, performance, efficiency, productivity outcomes among workforce members employed, diverse settings ranging urban-rural communities alike, launched comprehensive review process culminating formal proposal outlining mandatory implementation, standardized protocols designed to ensure fundamental necessities, hydration, replenishment opportunities, respite intervals, provision necessary protective measures, shielding employees engaged physically demanding tasks, susceptible adverse climatic influences, particularly prevalent summertime months when average daytime highs routinely exceed thresholds deemed tolerable according established scientific benchmarks, related ergonomics, physiology, environmental science disciplines respectively. For decades countless stories unfolded involving tragic consequences resulting failure comply recommended precautionary procedures ultimately leading fatalities, injuries, illnesses, chronic ailments, associated cumulative effects, repeated exposures, intense radiative fluxes, combined metabolic exertion demands imposed upon individual capacities withstand strain, physical limitations, exacerbated lack, proper acclimatization strategies, mitigation techniques, readily available resources, support networks capable address immediate needs arising, emergent situations requiring urgent intervention, timely response, coordination, multi-stakeholder collaboration frameworks fostering shared responsibility, accountability, ensuring compliance, adherence, regulatory framework, stipulated legislative mandates, enacted jurisdictional boundaries, applicable scope, authority, respective governing entities responsible, overseeing enforcement mechanisms, monitoring progress, evaluating effectiveness, impact achieved, desired objectives outlined, policy directives issued, authoritative sources recognized, credible institutions acknowledged, expertise, domain knowledge, specialized training, experience accumulated, extensive research studies conducted, systematic analysis, data collection, statistical modeling, predictive analytics, forecasting trends, patterns, behavior characteristics exhibited, observed phenomena recorded, documented, verified, validated, cross-referenced, comparative assessments, benchmark comparisons, peer-reviewed publications, scholarly journals, academic conferences, symposia, seminars, workshops, panel discussions, roundtable dialogues, expert panels, advisory committees, task forces, working groups, collaborative partnerships, strategic alliances, interagency collaborations, interdisciplinary cooperation, multidisciplinary approaches, integrative methodologies, holistic perspectives, inclusive practices, participatory decision-making processes, transparent communication channels, open dialogue platforms, interactive engagement sessions, community outreach programs, educational awareness campaigns, targeted sensitizing stakeholders involved, affected parties, impacted beneficiaries, prioritized interests addressed, equitably balanced How a $1 million lab is fighting heat illness for outdoor workers, UConn's Korey Institute. Heat waves and rising temperatures are increasingly endangering outdoor workers, and here's where the controversy begins. Are current safety measures enough, or are we just scratching the surface of a much bigger problem? The University of Connecticut's Korey Institute, https://koreystringer.institute.uconn.edu, is taking a bold step forward by planning to establish a new $1 million laboratory dedicated specifically to combating heat-related illnesses among workers. This initiative comes at a critical time, as climate change continues to push temperatures higher each year, making outdoor work more hazardous than ever. This state-of-the-art lab will enable researchers to simulate various environmental conditions, such as heat, humidity, sunlight, and altitude, that outdoor laborers face daily. According to Dr. Robert Huggins, https://koreystringer.institute.uconn.edu/person/Robert-Huggins-PhD-ATC, who serves as the president of Occupational Safety and Athlete Performance at the Institute, this facility will be instrumental in understanding how these factors impact worker health and safety. Named after Korey Stringer, a Pro Bowl offensive lineman for the Minnesota Vikings who tragically died from heatstroke during a 2001 training camp, the institute was founded in 2010 to study heat effects on athletes. Over time, its scope has expanded to include other high-risk groups such as military personnel and outdoor laborers. The new lab is a direct response to recent research, including a 2024 study by KSI researchers, which demonstrated that providing workers with heat mitigation strategies, like cooling gear and hydration, significantly improves their health and productivity in simulated high-heat environments. Since then, industries such as manufacturing, construction, and agriculture, where workers are regularly exposed to extreme heat, have reached out to KSI seeking guidance on how to keep their employees safe while maintaining efficiency. Huggins emphasizes that while we have well-established protections for athletes and military personnel, such as environmental monitoring, hydration protocols, and cooling systems, there's a notable gap when it comes to everyday workers. Many companies are concerned about heat safety, but there's limited research tailored specifically to occupational settings, he explains. Experts warn that heat-related illnesses can escalate rapidly if not identified and treated early. Initial symptoms often include muscle cramps or spasms, but if ignored, can progress to heat exhaustion or even heat stroke, which can be fatal. Vulnerable populations, such as young children, pregnant women, the elderly, and individuals with chronic health conditions, are especially at risk. Those with mobility issues or living alone face additional dangers, as they may not receive prompt assistance. Huggins expresses particular concern about workers in New England, where temperature fluctuations are especially intense. Leading up to recent days, we experienced relatively mild weather, but suddenly, there was a surge of extreme heat that many workers weren't acclimated to. This sudden change significantly raises the risk of heat illness, he notes. Moreover, climate data shows that Connecticut's average temperature in 2024 surpassed the typical annual average of around 50 degrees Fahrenheit, with 23 days exceeding 90 degrees Fahrenheit, an increase of over 50% compared to historical averages since 1960. Symptoms of heat exhaustion include heavy sweating, fatigue, a weak pulse, and cool, clammy skin, along with headache, dizziness, nausea, and fainting. Anyone showing these signs should be moved to a cool, shaded area and encouraged to sip water immediately. As temperatures climb, our bodies become less resilient and less adapted to heat stress, Huggins warns. This is especially true for individuals with pre-existing health issues like heart disease, diabetes, thyroid problems, or those who are wheelchair-bound, as well as the elderly and children, groups that face the highest risk of heat-related complications. Funding for the new lab comes from UConn's Office of the Vice President for Research, https://ovpr.uconn.edu, which oversees research activities across all campuses, including UConn Health. This office manages grants, research facilities, compliance, and innovation efforts. The institute also benefits from federal grants, supporting research collaborations with agencies like the National Institutes of Health, https://www.nih.gov, and OSHA, https://www.osha.gov. Huggins highlights that prior to this expansion, the institute was turning away companies and research funding due to limited lab space, underscoring the urgent need for more dedicated facilities. Among the planned research projects are studies on the effectiveness of cooling towels and gear, monitoring physiological responses such as heart rate, core temperature, fatigue, and stamina. Additionally, real-time data collection from workers in the field will help develop practical safety protocols. This research aims to guide companies on best practices to protect workers from heat stress while maintaining productivity. Huggins also points out that this initiative is particularly timely given recent policy developments. Last year, the Biden administration, through OSHA, proposed new rules to safeguard workers from heat-related illnesses, mandating measures like providing water, scheduled rest breaks, and acclimatization periods, along with training programs. However, these proposals faced uncertainty when the previous administration signaled they might be rolled back, leaving the responsibility largely to individual states. Some states have implemented stricter laws, but overall, the patchwork approach leaves many workers unprotected. The future of heat safety regulations remains uncertain, Huggins remarks. While federal standards could have provided uniform protections, the current landscape relies heavily on state laws and corporate initiatives. Unfortunately, this means that many workers remain vulnerable, and the need for dedicated research and innovative solutions has never been greater. Looking ahead, the Institute plans to hold a groundbreaking and dedication ceremony for the new lab this fall, signaling a significant step toward better understanding and combating heat-related health risks for outdoor workers. As climate change continues to intensify, the question remains, are we doing enough to protect those who keep our economy moving under the scorching sun? Or are we risking a future where heat-related tragedies become an accepted part of outdoor labor? The conversation is just beginning. What's your stance?